Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashodhana Dana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodhana Dana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashodhana Dana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodhana Dana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrakacharya Stotara Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, BBT founder Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Mantra Upasaka Srila Prabhupada ki, Senapati Bhakta Srila Prabhupada ki, Savior of the whole world Srila Prabhupada ki, Preeminent Shiksha Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrakacharya Stotara Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Gopi Gopinatha Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Navadvipa Dham ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Ganga Mai ki, Yamuna Mai ki, Tulsi Maharani ki, Samavyatha Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2, entitled Daksha Curses Lord Shiva. Today we are doing text number 9. We'll do the word for word together. Shruyatam Brahmarshayo Me Saha Deva Sahagnaya Sadhunam Bruvato Vritam Najgya Nan Na Cha Matsarat Shruyatam Brahmarshayo Me Sahadeva Sahagnaya Sadhunam Bruvato Vritam Nagyanan Nacha Matsarat Shruyatam Brahmarshayo Me Sahadeva Sahagnaya Sadhunam Bruvato Vritam Nagyanan Nacha matsarat. Shruyatam brahmarshayo me saha deva sahagnaya sadhunam bravato vritam na jnanan nacha matsarat. Shruyatam brahmarshayo me saha deva sahagnaya sadhunam bravato vritam na jnanan nacha matsarat. Shruyatam brahmarshayo me saha deva sahagnaya sadhanam bravato vritam agyanam nacha mattara. Shruyatam brahmarshayo me saha deva sahagnaya sadhanam bravato vritam agyanam nacha matsarat. Vaishnavis, Shriyatam brahmarshayo me saha deva sahagnaya sadhanam bravato vritam agyanam nacha matsarat. Shriyatam, here, Brahma Rishaya, O sages among the Brahmanas, me, unto me, Saha Deva, O demigods, Saha Agnaya, O fire gods, Sadhunam, of the gentle, Bravata, speaking, Vritam, the manners, Na, not, Agyanat, from ignorance, Nacha, and not, Matsarat, from envy. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki. All sages, brahmanas and fire gods present, please hear me with attention, for I speak about the manners of gentle persons. I do not speak out of ignorance or envy. Purport. In speaking against Lord Shiva, Daksha tried to pacify the assembly by presenting in a very tactful way that he was going to speak about the manners of gentle persons. Although naturally this might affect some unmannerly upstarts, and the assembly might be unhappy because they did not want even unmannerly persons to be offended. In other words, he was in complete knowledge that he was speaking against Lord Shiva, in spite of Shiva's spotless character. As far as envy is concerned, from the very beginning he was envious of Lord Shiva. He was envious of Lord Shiva. Therefore he could not distinguish his own particular envy. Although he spoke like a man in ignorance, he wanted to cover his statements by saying that he was not speaking for impudent and envious reasons. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu be'evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The verse again. All sages, brahmanas, and fire gods present, please hear me with attention. For I speak about the manners of gentle persons. I do not speak out of ignorance or envy. As Prabhupada said, Daksha was not able to recognize his own enviousness. And this chapter's title is Daksha Cursing Lord Shiva. We have just started the second chapter of the fourth canto, and now we are hearing about the discord between father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva respectively. As you may have heard in the previous chapter, Daksha is the son of Lord Brahma, and he is the husband of Prashuti, the sister of Devahuti. As a side point, there's a lesson to be learned from the three sisters, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prashuti. And the lesson here is the observation of your circumstances changing according to association. We have heard extensively about Devahuti in the third canto, how she was given in marriage to Kardama Muni, a pure devotee of the Lord. And as a result of association, Devahuti became the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Muni. In the beginning of this canto, we hear a little about Akuti, one of Swayambhuva Manu's other daughters. And Akuti became the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yagya. Yagya, the very first Indra, the king of heaven. If you're familiar with knowledge of Bhagavatam, then you would already be aware that the Supreme Personality of Godhead doesn't appear as a child of any random person. He appears as a child to his pure devotees. Even if you avoid the subject matters of love and devotion, which attracts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by having very elevated consciousness, a pure consciousness, can be understood as a minimum requirement to gain the Lord's attention. With this understanding, we can accept that Akuti's association with a very highly elevated soul resulted in her becoming the mother of the Supreme Lord. Then what about Prashuti? Without a doubt, she had many children, but none of them were the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can assume Prashuti was shortchanged in regards to her husband's selection. Her husband wasn't spiritually elevated, and therefore the Lord hadn't appeared as their child. You will hear in the following verses to come, and Maharaj has mentioned it a few times as well, but Daksha is not spiritually elevated. In fact, he is a fruitive worker. Daksha was materially well off, so much so that he could host grand Vedic sacrifices that even the demigods would attend. In other words, Daksha was materially wealthy. Of the three sisters, Akuti, Devahuti and Prashuti, Prashuti is the one who had the best material comforts. But still, with all that material opulence, they still didn't attract the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Daksha and Prashuti did, on the other hand, attract someone else. And that someone else was material nature personified. It is not mentioned in the Bhagavatam, but this information comes from other Puranas. And you may have heard this pastime as well. Daksha, along with his wife, were able to please the goddess Durga, the personified form of the Lord's external energy. And Durga had agreed to the request of her worshippers and accepted Prashuti and Daksha as her parents. And the one who appeared as the daughter of Daksha and Prashuti was none other than Sati. The Sati is actually the incarnation of material nature, an incarnation of Durga. As you may have heard or remember in previous classes, that Daksha was very fond of Sati. Sati was his favorite child. And perhaps Daksha saw Sati as a very sweet girl and therefore he doted on her. Perhaps Sati had good behavior or a pleasing attitude, and so Daksha accepted her as his favorite child. Or maybe, just perhaps, Daksha is well aware of the identity of his daughter, an incarnation of material nature, and therefore he put extra attention towards this particular child. Now, can you imagine yourself having complete authority over material nature? It's mind-boggling and it's practically impossible. At most, someone would practice spiritual life to leave material nature, to escape material entanglement. Even a pure devotee of the Lord, by his devotion, can remain unaffected by material circumstances. But to have authority over material nature, that's unheard of. There's been a few living entities who have had control over material nature. One such famous example is Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu had so much control that even Narada Muni, who is described as the Shakti Avesh avatar of bhakti, devotional service, had to offer obeisances to Hiranyakashipu. Then what to speak of Daksha, who has material nature as his daughter? In previous classes, Maharaj has mentioned that the word Daksha means expert, and he related it to Daksha as a Prajapati. In other words, Daksha's ability in sex life. Daksha was an expert in that. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Giri Govardhan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. But from this understanding, there's another form of expertise that Daksha had. And that was he was able to have complete authority over material nature in the form of sati. And how many people could have said to have such intelligence as to put material nature under their control? Only Daksha has ever made such an attempt. Even when we look at this verse, Srila Prabhupada is practically saying that Daksha was using word jugglery to insult Lord Shiva. And so perhaps through his expert word jugglery, he was able to get Sati as his daughter. Of course, that angle of vision is hypothetical. Bhagavatam has described that Daksha was very affectionate to his daughter. He was a very affectionate father. And through that practice of affection, he was and he is he became attached to Sati. And who can be attached, or who can be more attached to Yoga Maya than Daksha? Another point of understanding the enmity of Daksha was his giving away of Sati in marriage to Lord Shiva. You will hear in the upcoming verses that he didn't give Sati away in marriage out of choice. Lord Brahma asked him to do it. In the material world and to our experience, the hardest thing to give up is the things that we are attached to. For Daksha, who was already envious of Lord Shiva, to give Sati to Lord Shiva, who he felt wasn't as good or better than himself, was a kind of suffering for Daksha. Generally, for a father, when he is giving away his daughter away in marriage, his preference is usually a man who is either good or better than himself. And Daksha didn't think that Lord Shiva was as good as him or better. On the other hand, there's a Western saying, every daughter will marry her father. Not literally, but if the relationship between the father and daughter is good, then when the girl is looking for a husband, she will use her father's good qualities as a measurement for finding potential candidates. And perhaps Daksha was expecting that Sati will find a nice husband that is very much like himself. Unfortunately, he didn't understand Sati's identity, and he couldn't understand her heart either. But Lord Brahma could understand. He could see that Sati was already fixed on Lord Shiva. And so Sati was married to Lord Shiva by his arrangement. If you try to imagine if Lord Brahma didn't make that arrangement, would Sati accept any man as that her father brought as her husband? She wouldn't accept. She would probably have ran away from home and gone to Lord Shiva, creating an even worse enmity between Daksha and Lord Shiva than it already is. But all of that was avoided by Lord Brahma's expertise. The relationship between Lord Shiva and Sati is fixed. It cannot change. Srila Prabhupada makes this point in the beginning of the first chapter of this canto in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Yagya and his twin sister who is Lakshmi. Materially they have appeared as brother and sister, but spiritually their eternal position is that of husband and wife. And in the same way, Lord Shiva is always the husband of material nature in whatever form she may appear in. So I will stop over here. Anyone wants to make any comments, ask any questions?
It's interesting that you talk about Sati and marriage that was arranged by Brahma. She, after she left her body, she came back as Parvati, is it?
Yes, she was reincarnated as Parvati, the daughter of the Himalayas.
And then she continued serving Lord Shiva.
As far as I've heard, she, as a young girl, had always been fixed in devotion to Lord Shiva. And she would meditate, Parvati would meditate on Lord Shiva continuously, so much so that it affected the universe negatively. And the reason why it affected the universe negatively was because she didn't want to stop her meditation, which is to get the audience of Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva had decided to enter meditation, yoga meditation, continuously after Sati had given up her body, and he didn't want to do anything with material, with the material environment. And so he ignored Parvati's dedication towards him. And because neither of them were relenting in the activities of meditation, the universe was being affected negatively. And so the demigods had arranged for Kandarpa, who is Cupid, to shoot his flowery arrows at Lord Shiva to disturb his meditation. And that's what Kandarpa had done. And when Lord Shiva was shot by Kandarpa's arrow, Lord Shiva was agitated, but not in lust, but in anger. And the third eye on Lord Shiva's forehead opened, and he had burnt the body of Cupid, of Kandarpa. And so Lord Shiva's meditation had already broke, and he became aware of Parvati's meditation on him. And so he went and met with her, and eventually they became husband and wife. Is that okay? Yes?
I'm not sure whether this question is apt, but I was just wondering what is the relationship between Durga or Kali and Parvati?
They are essentially the same person. Yes. It's just material nature personified in different moods. Okay. Anyone else has questions or comments? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.